What's up, guys? Pastor Ross here, coming at you with another Roots recap. Week 3. What a great morning it was. Loved worshiping with everyone, seeing the goods off. That was hard. It was beautiful, and loved the new song that was introduced. Loved Morgan's piece. Benzie did an amazing job of being MC and closing us down with the benediction. It's good to have him up there. Really enjoying the space in the new theater, but also just want to maybe just remind us that it's a different space, right? It's not the pack, and so a lot of the things that we got used to there with the building kind of doing the heavy lifting of community, it was just easy to feel like a family there because you're there in the room and everybody's up in your face. And now we're in a space that's completely designed to consume entertainment, and that's not a bad thing, but for a church, that's ultimately not a good thing. And so we just want to make sure that we're working hard to stay connected with each other. And if you feel like you're slipping through the cracks, I want to encourage you to just not be quiet about it, but to come and talk to somebody and let us know. And if you don't feel connected, we want to get you connected. Today's sermon was the generous widow. Mark chapter 12, verses 41 through 44. And there were 3 main points to the sermon. The first one is that Jesus cares about our generosity, that generosity is a major biblical category. He thinks about it. He cares about it. In this story, Jesus sat down opposite the treasury with the intention of watching people giving. So Jesus talked about money a lot. 16 of the 38 parables were concerned with how to handle money and possessions. In the gospel, 1 out of 10 verses deal directly with the subject of money. That's 288 in all. The Bible offers around 500 verses on prayer, less than 500 verses on faith, but more than 2,000 verses on money and possessions, because generosity is hard. That's what we talked about today, is generosity is hard. And if that's something you struggle with, you know what? That's okay, because God is with us in the midst of the struggle, but he also wants to grow us in our sacrificial giving. And so Jesus really cares about our generosity, and he actually looks at what we give. We see that it's very particular, that it says some people gave a lot and a widow gave very little. She actually gave what is the equivalent of $1.64 if you were making $100 a day. And so she popped in a really small amount, and Jesus saw both of them. And money tends to be this thing that's private for us, but to Jesus, it is not hands off. He blows past all of our boundaries and just rudely looks at our checkbooks. And the question that I pose to us is that okay with you? Is that a category for you? Whether you're rich or you poor, is Jesus welcome to, in your life, to take a look at what you give, at your checkbook, of how you spend your money? And we said that whatever amount you give, do it coram Deo, in the presence of God. Don't do it as if Jesus doesn't see. And then the last point was that Jesus defined true generosity not necessarily in terms of how much money we give, but in how much it costs us. On the one hand, Jesus doesn't care about amount because God isn't after our money, because he doesn't need it to continue to operate as God. But on the other hand, he does care about the amount because it is a window into our hearts. And so verse 43, Jesus says that the widow put in more than all the people. So $1.64 more than however much their large sums were, $10,000, $5,000. And the question is that is Jesus just bad at math? And of course, no. It's that God's math just exists on a different axis. That the rich people's large sums cost them very little because they were giving out of their abundance, but the widow's offering cost her everything because she gave out of her poverty. That their large sums represented a stack of money and not their lives. But in giving her $1.64, the widow was giving herself because that's all she had. And so she is saying to God, this is all I got. Here's my entire life. What I have is yours. And the rich people were saying, God, I have a lot of money, but here, you can have some. And so it's the difference between here's my entire life and here's 10% of my life. And so we are generous when it is costly, because worship is costly. Costly mostly in our ability to worship God was purchased by Jesus. Jesus paid it all. All to him we owe. And Jesus did not tithe his blood on the cross. He didn't give a percentage. He gave it. He gave everything. And it's because of his generosity that cost him much. Yes, generosity is hard, but it was much harder on Jesus. And he said, come and follow me. And so for us, true generosity is before anything that we do, we give our lives to God and we say, we're going to follow you. It's not determined by how much money you have, but by whether your heart longs to follow God. And so if you are poor, you can still be generous. Find out what your $1.64 looks like and give with gusto. Then if you have more money, then your $1.64 might look like more than you are currently giving. Because to whom much is given, much is required. But ask this question. Here's the question we ended up with. Does my lifestyle determine my generosity, or does my generosity determine my lifestyle? Seriously ask this question this week and see what shakes out. So maybe there's a step that God is asking all of us to take. What is the next step for us? Maybe we give for the first time. Maybe we start giving consistently. Maybe we start making some real lifestyle changes in our lives. Wherever you are, God is honored by that. He loves you. He's with you. He is for you. He's not against you when he's asking you to be generous. Love you guys. See you next time.